Very good morning, investors. You're now on KleverStock with me, One Izzul Islam, and I'll be serving you the morning bell updates on this lovely Friday morning. So, we're going to be kicking it off with opening bell updates from our local market. The FBM KLCI continued its slide today with profit-taking activities ahead of the Merdeka Day long weekend, exerting downward pressure on the index. Now, our FBM KLCI opened marginally lower by 0.24 points at 1,586.83, and that was by around 9:15 a.m. The index also dropped to 1,581.1, down by 5.97 points, and this local trend is in contrast to US markets, which saw a positive performance overnight. Now, stocks they rebounded on a more optimistic reading of Nvidia's latest results, which showed robust revenue growth despite a slight miss in data center sales and continued trade tensions with China. Now, investors also found encouragement in signals from the Federal Reserve policymakers, which have increased the likelihood of an interest rate cut in September. However, local analysts offered differing views on the market outlook. TA Securities suggested that range-bound trade is likely to continue in the absence of major local catalysts, with market attention centered on upcoming US economic data that could shape the trajectory of interest rates. In contrast, Malacca Securities held a more positive view, noting that with the S&P 500 hitting a record high, they expect the FBM KLCI to trade on a positive note despite the long weekend break, with the key focus likely on the technology sector. Among the early price movers this morning on Bursa Malaysia, Nestle slid 38 cents to 95 ringgit 62 cents. Maybank dipped 5 cents to 9 ringgit 90 cents, and Tenaga Nasional shed 6 cents to 13 ringgit 38 cents. The top active counters were Genetec. They slid by 7.5 cents to 56 cents. Tanco were down by 2 cents to 70.5 cents. And Renewco, which fell by half a cent to 2 cents. Now, let's take a look at the performance of our local currency. The US dollar index DXY fell by 0.29% to 97.897 points as the probability of a US interest rate cut gained momentum. Now, this was fueled by Federal Reserve Governor Christopher Waller, a prominent member of the Federal Open Market Committee, FOMC, who reiterated his support for a rate cut in September due to an apparent weakening of the US labor market. Now, Waller, a Trump appointee, was a dissenter at the July FOMC meeting, arguing for a rate cut to bolster employment. The second estimate of the second quarter US GDP came in higher than expected at 3.3%, and that's up from the initial 3.0%. However, Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad's chief economist, Dr. Muhammad Afzanizam Abdul Rashid, he noted that a closer look at the data shows the growth was primarily driven by a sharp decline in imports, which plunged by 29.8%. Now, this meant that net exports contributed significantly to the overall GDP, a trend that is often seen as a sign of underlying domestic demand weakness rather than strength. Now, the US Personal Consumption Expenditures, or PCE price index, the Fed's preferred gauge of inflation, is scheduled for release sometime later today. Markets are keenly awaiting this report to confirm or challenge the current dovish sentiment. Now, the ringgit traded mostly higher against a basket of major currencies. It strengthened against the Japanese yen to 2.8632 or 2.8784. It also strengthened against the British pound to 5.6788 or 5.7085. However, it did edge down slightly versus the euro to 4.9099 or 4.9355. The local note also performed positively against most other ASEAN currencies. Our ringgit strengthened against the Singapore dollar to 3.27777 or 3.2951. It also strengthened against the Indonesian rupiah to 257.0 or 258.5 and the Philippine peso to 7.36 or 7.40. Conversely, however, it did slip against the Thai baht to 13.0207 or 13.0962. Moving on to local economic updates. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim has dismissed allegations of economic development disparity, pushing back on the notion that states like Penang and Johor are being prioritized for mega projects at the expense of others. Now, speaking during the Prime Minister's question time in the Dewan Rakyat, Datuk Seri Anwar stated that the government's approach to prioritizing certain projects is strategically aligned with key national economic frameworks, including the Madani Economy Framework, the New Industrial Master Plan 2030, and the National Semiconductor Strategy. Datuk Seri Anwar cited the Johor Singapore Special Economic Zone or JSSEZ as a prime example of a project that aligns with these frameworks. To substantiate this, the Prime Minister provided figures illustrating a significant increase in development expenditure for various states under his administration. Now, the states include Sabah from early 5.2 billion ringgit in 2022 to 6.7 billion ringgit in 2025, Sarawak from 4.7 billion ringgit in 2022 to 5.9 billion ringgit in 2025. In Terengganu, from 1.4 billion ringgit in 2022 to 1.8 billion in 2025. In Kelantan, 2.4 billion ringgit in 2022 to 3.2 billion ringgit in 2025. For the state of Kedah, it was from 1.6 billion ringgit in 2022 to 2.2 billion in 2025. And in Perlis, from 400 million ringgit in 2022 to 600 million ringgit this year. Now, Datuk Seri Anwar also highlighted several large-scale infrastructure projects to counter the claims of neglect. He mentioned the 15.9 billion ringgit Pan-Borneo Highway, the Sabah-Sarawak Link Road, costing close to 10 billion ringgit. He also included that of the 74.96 billion ringgit East Coast Rail Link, the ECRL, and the 6.38 billion ringgit Central Spine Road. Now, the Premier assured that proposals from state leaders would be considered for fulfillment, with some expected to be announced in Budget 2026. In a separate address at the Second International Summit of Religious Leaders 2025, Datuk Seri Anwar issued a stern warning against those who sow discord. He said that those who create havoc and preach hatred against any other religion, we will go high on you, as this can destroy the country. He also emphasized that in a country with a diverse population, religious leaders have an obligation to unite and fight against those who reject faith and the values of humanity. Finally, the Prime Minister stressed that a new form of age of ignorance is emerging, where hatred of another religion stems from a lack of knowledge about it. Moving on to some corporate-related news. Tenaga Nasional Berhad, or TNB, announced its financial performance for the first half of the financial year ended June 30th, 2025. Now, posting strong earnings while also reaffirming its commitment to nation building and community support. Now, the company's performance was bolstered by robust demand, operational efficiency, and a significant foreign exchange gain. For the first half of the financial year 2025, TNB recorded earnings of 2.2 billion ringgit, supported by robust demand and prudent financial management. A key contributor to these key earnings was a foreign exchange translation gain of 350.6 million ringgit, and that resulted from the ringgit's appreciation from 4.47 ringgit per US dollar in December 2024 to that of 4.21 ringgit per US dollar in June 2025. Now, in line with its dividend policy, the board has declared an interim dividend of 25 cents per share. TNB President and CEO Datuk Megat Jalaluddin Megat Hassan highlighted that this dividend commitment is a direct way for TNB to give back to the nation, as it is estimated that 1.5 billion ringgit in dividends will be paid out to shareholders. Approximately 60% of this amount will go to government-linked investment institutions such as KWSP, Khazanah, PNB and KWAP, which collectively benefit millions of Malaysians through pensions and savings. Reliability remains at the core of TNB's strategy. In the first half of 2025, the company invested 5.2 billion ringgit in reliability-related projects to cater to demand growth, ensure supply security, and support the energy transition. Now, these investments were critical as TNB recorded a new maximum demand of 21,049 megawatts on May 28, 2025. Now, the investments have led to a measurable improvement in the System Average Interruption Duration Index, also known as the SIDE, which improved to 23.56 minutes per customer in the first half of 2025 from 23.92 minutes a year ago. Now, this SIDE is a key metric used by the utility industry to measure the average duration of power outages per customer over a period. A lower SIDE indicates a more reliable electricity supply. Now, the strong financial and operational performance earned TNB recognition from brand valuation consultancy Brand Finance in July 2025, which named it the world's second strongest utility brand and ASEAN's top utility brand. Well done to TNB. And finally, we're going to be wrapping up with some major corporate developments and deals across Malaysia. Here are the headlines. At number 1, Maybank Berhad has completed the issuance of 1.8 billion ringgit in subordinate sukuk murabaha under the 30 billion ringgit sukuk program, and the proceeds will be applied for Sharia compliant purposes. Next headline at number 2, IHH Healthcare Berhad has unveiled a new corporate identity as part of efforts to unify its hospital network and strengthen its role in the healthcare sector. Our next headline, IJM Corporations Berhad. They've confirmed that it has submitted a proposal to acquire Pemodelan or PNB highway assets. At number 4, the headline reads, Semaidan Group Berhad, through its wholly owned subsidiary Semaidan Sdn Berhad, has accepted a letter of award from Unique HEB Energy Sdn Berhad for a works contract in Hilir Perak worth about 290 million ringgit. At number 5, the headline reads, Inta Bina Group Berhad. They've accepted a letter of award from Symphony Hill Sdn Berhad for main building works in Cyberjaya, and that's worth around 67.8 million ringgit. Our next headline, Axiata Group Berhad is open to pursuing asset monetization opportunities to ease their debt load. Keep an eye out on that. At number 7, the headline reads, QL Resources Berhad. They're pressing ahead with its plan to expand the Family Mart convenience store chain to 600 outlets by financial year 2027, undeterred by rising operating costs. At number 8, Matrix Concept Holdings Berhad. They've set a sales target of 1.6 billion and plans project launches worth up to 1.7 billion ringgit for the financial year 2026. A huge target indeed for Matrix Concepts Holdings Berhad. And that is a wrap up for the Morning Bell updates with me, Wan Izil Islam, right here on KleverStock. Thank you so much for choosing us, investors. Have a wonderful long weekend ahead. Remember, Monday is a public holiday. It is a replacement leave for that of Sunday, Hari Merdeka. 69th year, we are celebrating that wonderful achievement. Tanggal 31. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again shortly. Have a wonderful day ahead.